Hi everyone, welcome back to Seeds and Weeds. So we've got a bit of a heat wave going on in South Africa at the moment, anywhere temperatures from 30 degrees and over. Today, although being a beautiful day, it is very hot and humid. At the moment we're sitting at about 30 degrees. There's not much of a breeze, so I'm trying to stay out of the garden, out of the heat. And I decided to do a bit of a DIY project that I'm going to share with you today. And I've got some peas that I want to plant out in the garden, and I'm going to need a bit of a trellis work for that to go up. So I'm going to show you guys how to make a very quick, easy trellis framework that you can put peas or any of your sort of climbing veggie plants or climbers that you may have in the garden, and that you can use to put them up. So let me quickly show you what I have in mind, or what I'm going to be doing for my peas in my garden. Okay, so this is very basic framework. I've basically got 4 lengths of bamboo. I cut mine 1.6 meters each. And then what I've done is I've taken baling twine. Well, actually, the corners I've put cable ties, and then I've taken baling twine that I've got from a farmer after he's fed out the bales. So those pieces we rolled up, and then that's what we used here. And I've literally just put 2 diagonally, and then yeah, so these pieces here are more or less how far apart you're going to be planting your peas, so that once they come up out of the ground, then they can climb their way up. The diagonal ones are also just to help get as they're growing, to get a horizontal something just to hook it onto, to get them to go. I'll just have a look, see, they might be a bit high for tomatoes at this stage, but I might actually try one on the tomatoes and see how that works. So let's have a look what materials you need in order to do it, and I'll quickly make one up with you. So the materials I used is obviously your 4 pieces of bamboo. These are cut to 1.6 meters long. You can make them any length you like, depending on what area you need to cover. I just find that the bigger they are more difficult to move, and they have a tendency to come apart. So try not to make them, if they're too long diagonally, then they have a tendency to move or to break apart. So I've got cable ties, which is just a quick and easy way to do the corners. They can also be tied with baling twine. Got the baling twine, which I've just rolled it onto the spool for ease of use, and then obviously a pair of scissors to cut that. So basically what we're going to start off with is taking the cable ties, and I use 2 on these pieces, one going that way and one going that way, to try and keep it nice and taut. The bottom section I leave a piece open, so what I do is I put a dropper in the ground, and then I'll cable tie these side pieces to the dropper. So I'll hopefully get these put up in the garden just now. I'll put one up just so that you can see with the droppers how I attach them. Okay, so you just lay the bamboo pieces out more or less where you want to tie them up. So you'll see I've put them more or less how I want to, and then, as I say, you take the cable ties, and you'll see I've put 2 cable ties there. It actually makes a bit of a cross to try and get it as snug as possible. I leave these on for now, so that once I've actually put the baling twine in, then I double check them to make sure I can't get them a little bit tighter, and then I only cut them off. So I'll put those on all 4 corners, and I'll just finish this corner, and then I'll show you how I do the baling twine. So I've tied the first one on. It's potentially about a hand's width. I'm not giving it an exact measurement. I put it around the bottom piece twice, and then tie a knot. And then you're going to take it to the top, and then you're going to fasten it like that one as well. So basically the same distance that you do at the bottom, you do at the top. So I'll just cut that off there, and then tie that on. And I'm going to do that all the way across like that, and then, as I say, we'll do the cross ones. Okay, so we've got all the vertical strands up, and then I've put the first horizontal one in there. So you just measured about a third, and a third for the last one. So this one I've put in. I actually just weave it up and over between the strands, and the same as that one, I just do it on the opposite side. I don't think there's any technical reason for doing it, probably just my OCD that wants to do it opposite. So just putting it straight across, I'm sure will work just fine as well. So I'm just going to get this piece here tied up, and then I've got 2 of these done, which I'll then show you how to put them up in the garden bed. Okay, so just before we move it, we just need to trim these off as well. If you see, there's still quite a bit of movement in it, so it's not going to be like very, very taut, but I normally just move it a little bit. Check your cable ties, and I'll cut these off on all 4 corners, and then, as I say, we'll move it to the garden so that we can put it up. These are the peas that we're going to be planting. I'll just double check the variety, but I think it's a sweet, like a sugar snap type of pea, but I'll put on the screen what the actual variety is. So these, I was actually busy shelling peas and they started sprouting, so I just bunged them in the seed tray and let them grow so that we could get a second round. Okay, so I've put the 2 frames on top of each other. I'm going to grab it in the middle here to carry it so that I keep its proportions. If you're going to grab it on one side or the other, it actually might warp a bit. So just to try and keep it square, I'm going to take it in the middle and then take it to the garden. Okay, so I've just put the frames down here for now. These mealies aren't looking so great. These are all the volunteers that we moved. With the heat, they've got really shish kebabbed. They're looking very shriveled, so I'm hoping they're going to pull through. I'm just trying to decide now if I must put the peas here next to them or on that side of the bed. So I want to put root vegetables in, although I've got a couple more of a lychee tomato that I need to put in as well. So maybe I must put them on this side, being a taller, standing taller in the garden for the shade purposes. So for us, we need to put the taller stuff on the, I think it's the southern side, and the shorter veggies on the northern side. I know in the northern hemisphere it's the opposite, but here, this side, we need to put the taller stuff so that it doesn't shade out. If we plant it that side, it has the potential of shading out the stuff that gets planted this side. So that's why we're doing all the tall stuff here. You'll see the popcorn mealies, I also did that side, and then the shorter items on that side. So I think a better idea to put them here. If these don't survive, then we'll just find something else to plant there. Okay, so I've got pieces of drop here. These came out of the old fence that was around the garden before we redid the fence. So I've just gone through and found the longer ones there. And I've got the cable ties, and then a hammer for the droppers if necessary, and then obviously these just to trim off the cable ties when we're finished. So the idea is, well, let me put one up and then I'll show you. I think it's going to be a bit easier. Okay, so I've got this frame lined up, so I'm going to have the 2 sitting like that. You'll see there I've put in the piece of dropper and the piece of dropper. I'm not sure it's visible from here, but there you go. So on that side, you'll see I've got it just on the outside to measure it, that I put it in. So I get it in a fair amount so that it's nice and sturdy, but enough sticking out that you can cable tie onto there. And then this side, you'll see I put it on this side so that when I stand it up, that the distance is right. So again, put that one in, then I'll stand it up and then cable tie it in 2 or 3 places to keep it upright. Okay, so I've got that stood up. What I just did is I just loosely put a cable tie here and one on that side to make sure that I've got it lined up nicely. So I'll tighten this now, put another one down here, and then we can do the other side. Okay, so this one again, I've got it lined up on both sides. On the inside this side, on the outside that side, meaning inside here, on the outside piece on that side, so that this is the right distance apart. Make sure your cable ties are placed for, so once you've lifted it, I mean, if you've got an extra pair of hands, it makes it a lot easier. But I'm working on my own, so it is possible to put these up on your own. Just have your items ready, and then you can get that second one up. So you'll see there's a gap, probably about 1/2 meter there, which is fine, because we'll be harvesting it from the outsides, but there's enough space for them to grow on the inside. And then we have the two frameworks set up. So if you have it that they are much wider, you can always put an extra upright in the middle with another dropper just to get it more sturdy. So if it was coming out more here, then you'd have another upright with a dropper to keep it sturdy. So I on purpose kept mine a bit shorter. You can see this bamboo is not very straight, but it'll get the job done, and we'll get the peas planted once it cools off a little bit, and then now they're afer away and ready to go. So you'll see cloudless skies, as I say, very hot day, humid, but we can still get a couple of projects done like these frameworks. So in terms of cost of the framework, the bamboo I had growing in the garden, so I didn't have to pay for that. The baling twine I also didn't have to pay for because I got that as a leftover. You can get reels of twine for about 100 Rand. I got some from Vierkolbeer, black twine that I use for my tomatoes. But as I say, these ones I didn't pay for. So to get these up, I also had left or broken droppers that I kept, pieces of dropper, which I put in, which I'll also, the shorter pieces I'm actually going to put in on either side for pegs with a bit of PVC pipe in order to make a tunnel. So don't throw away your pieces of dropper, or if you've got farmers that are in the area doing fencing, it's always a great idea to ask them for their pieces of dropper, because you can use them for all sorts. So basically this project pretty much cost me cable ties. Everywhere that I used cable ties here, you can use the twine as well to tie there, and also to tie them on. So if you don't have access to cable ties or don't have the funds for cable ties, the baling twine will work just as well for that. So a very inexpensive project that'll get the job done and get your veggies growing. Yeah, so the tomatoes and stuff that I planted are actually looking quite good. Those ones had their domes off for a while. Just take this dome off. So these are also looking pretty good. You'll see the little basil coming along there that I put in. So as I say, these are aromas, but they're looking pretty good. So these ones are much smaller. You'll see the plants are quite a bit smaller, so I'm going to just give them a little bit longer before I take the domes off, because it's so hot. As I say, these guys are looking so sad. I hope they bounce back. But yeah, the Brussels sprouts are looking good. They've grown a bit. My red cabbages are looking awesome. Something I love about red cabbages is the veins when they come out like that. So that's just something silly, but I like that. As I said, I've got quite a lot of cabbages. My kale is recovering, so that's awesome. My Danish cabbages are making heads. That first one there is quite nice and big. And then, as I say, my popcorn mealies that are also looking very good. I said that I'm very stoked about these tomatoes, so we keep them going. So my next DIY project will obviously be the tomatoes. I'm not sure if I'm going to use the same sort of concept as that. I used to make like a little teepee for them, which I haven't found to be super successful. So the next DIY project will be figuring out how I'm going to stake up the tomatoes to support them before they... I see this one's actually got a little flower on it, so that's awesome. So I need to get these little guys supported before they start fruiting. Yeah guys, thanks for joining me for this little DIY project. So just something very inexpensive that can work if you don't have the budget to do something fancy, but it'll get the job done and for very little money, so you make it work. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again. Please remember to subscribe and like this video to support us, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye for now. Yeah, the quality of this video is shocking because of the zoom in on it, but this is little meerkat and he's using his tail almost like an umbrella from the sun.